what is your legacy at the end of the day when you're gone, when you're dust and you are but a memory? What would you like your legacy to be?
Well, in terms of the arts, I would like for people to look back at what I've done and to learn how we could love each other better. All right. The whole idea, the whole premise of this was for people to not to judge each other by the color of our skin, by the content of our character.
Jokey on the track.
All right, let me give a little speech here. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, the sexy and the not so sexy, big children and little. I am the novelist, author, poet, Lamont Anthony Wright, aka Graffiti Bleu. We're going outside of the outside of the county line today. Going as far as Canada, Ottawa?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, going as far as Canada. We are going across the border to our Canadian brothers and sisters. I'm going to shout to a gentleman that I find extraordinarily interesting, just his views and just the art that I know. I know there's plenty of art as with poets. There is so much art that we do not know about, buried in archives. We are going to do our best. This might be two parts depending on how deep the rabbit hole goes with this gentleman. I assume you've been doing it for a long time. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have York Campbell on the other end of the line. And this gentleman says that he is an editor, producer, poet, and host of Poetic Earthlings, to an episode that I so enjoyed contributing to. I'm a big ham to know me, York. I love that stuff. There's a certain theater that comes along with poets that you probably agree on. Would you mind? The name of this show is the Adventures of a Naive Poet. So before I give the mic to you, what I am trying to do with this series is through a series of storytelling and testimony, I'm trying to bring people together of all shades of brown to share their stories. I don't believe there's a infrastructure for poets where we're just knowledge sharing. To me, poets are at the head of the revolution. And for some strange reason, if we're not in a poetry circle, like an open mic slam or some type of performance, whatever, we don't really have the conversations that we should be having. And we are really at the cutting edge of whatever revolution will ever happen. A poet is always at the cutting edge, my opinion. But before we go tumbling down the rabbit hole, could you tell the people who you are and how you came to be who you are?
My name is York Campbell. Okay. I'm the host and also the editor of Poetic Earthlings. And what is Poetic Earthlings? Well, Poetic Earthlings is an sci-fi anthology. Okay. And so what this show does with music and sound effects, it helps you to get into the stories, for you to be involved every step of the way. Some stories are very simplistic. Some of them are really far out there, soul searching. And I started doing this way back in 2017.
Okay.
I was doing a daily show every single day. I was on the microphone publishing a show, and then I started to do it once a week. So now we're in the fourth season, and I'm writing the fifth season along with other poets and different writers as well.
Okay. And
So it's an adventure.
and I think it's really dope. And so before 2017, were you doing any like open mics? Were you writing? I'm pretty sure that writing, your creative gene was pretty much there from birth. Would you mind sharing with us what your earliest kind of creative manifesto is, when you realized like, wow, I'm a poet, you know?
Well, see, I started writing way back a long time ago. I was writing lyrics,
Okay.
hip hop songs primarily with different hip hop groups in Canada. Yes, there is a lot of hip hop in Canada. Okay.
Okay. No. Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so I was one of the main writers of different groups. I also performed
Okay.
on stage, and also I went to a couple of different recording studios, and we put out some songs. It was played on the radio. So I was always involved in music, and then in terms of the stories, that just came naturally. It's kind of like an offshoot from the music.
Okay.
And I think it's almost one of the same. So when I was writing songs, lyrics, I was also writing science fiction stories,
Oh, okay.
and then branched off from there, and I did other types of genres as well. So I guess the start of it was from music.
Okay.
So when I started writing the stories, they took on a musical flavor to it, a poetic flavor,
Okay.
to how the stories are told,
Right.
through various artists that I was influenced in. My other influence came from talk radio. I used to
Okay.
listen to talk radio all the time. When people watch their TV shows, you can't wait to get home and watch your show. I couldn't wait to tune my radio to different AM talk radio hosts.
Right.
And some of these guys I listen to, they will just take your mind somewhere else, like conspiracy theories and UFOs and a whole bunch of things. And so that was some of my influence of listening to the radio, being intrigued, being entertained by these guys that you can't even see them. They're just telling you words, and they're painting such an incredible picture.
Right.
So my fascination with radio, my fascination with hip hop music combined to make Poetic Earthlings, and that came about in 2017. I also wrote a book before then as well, that we'll get to that a little bit later on.
We will get to that. Interesting that you make so many references to radio, because when I started kind of figuring out who you were through your art and all of that, I immediately was drawn to what I remember as far as how things were once upon a time, and how that art was being reinvented through what you were doing. And what I'm talking about is I don't want to say lost art, but I want to say almost forgotten art of entertaining through audio, just sounds, and how people used to gather once upon a time around the radio and listen to these shows, and it would be this weekly thing. Like, me, my name, I refer to myself as Graffiti Bleu, but I was actually, my given name, I was actually named after Lamont Cranston of the Shadow series. Who knows? The Shadow knows, and the irony that I would grow up to be a writer of stories and things like that. I also have similar origins to you. Started out just writing whatever, graffiti art, poetry, and such. That evolved into stories, and that evolved into rap, and did all of these things, which leads me to my first question, Mr. York Campbell. What was your, because you can write in more than one modality, what was your most naive notion, I would say, about just in writing in general? I have a section on the show called Naive Notions, which really kind of highlights the growth of an artist. Like, man, what did we think we knew? And after we became York Campbell, editor, producer, poet, whatever, what do you now know over here? Were there any naive things notions you had about the writing process in general?
Yeah, the naive notion that I had is once you get into a writing groove, then nothing could stop you. You could pick up your pen,
Right.
and it turns gold, and everything that you write is solid, and it's gonna punch you in the heart. It's gonna attract the audience, right? And so that was naive. Now sometimes those naive thoughts kind of trickle in, especially when I feel that everything is going well. I could just write anything. I could just be on the subway in Toronto and just start writing anything, but that's not the case. There are some things that you will think that you will be inspired. As an example, when the Twin Towers fell, I thought, okay, well, this is such a traumatic time. Of course, I'll be inspired to write something. So I sat with my pen and paper, and I was forcing myself, which is never good, to come up with a story or a poem, whatever it is, about 9/11. Nothing came to my mind for months and months, and the months turned into years and years and years. Nothing came into my mind, and finally I thought of something. Sometimes in the moment of a disaster or whatever it is, or it could be something extremely beautiful, like a double rainbow in the sky, and you think, wow, this is just a nice day. I see a double rainbow. I have to write about it, and nothing comes to the mind. So the naive notion was tragic events, or even beautiful events, like falling in love or getting a puppy for the first time, whatever it is.
Right.
You think, wow, I could write a story about this. This is just amazing. And it doesn't happen. Then the times when you least expect any kind of creative thoughts to go into your mind is, for me, I was standing at a bus shelter here in Ottawa, in beautiful Ottawa, and there was a spider building her web. And this may look crazy to all the people in Canada, okay, looking at this guy staring at a spider's web. But I was staring at the spider's web, and then I was getting one thought after another thought after another thought of different stories and what the spider is up to. And then I created something out of the spider's web. So that's an inspiration. But again, the naivety was these other events should spark something, when it doesn't really work that way. Creativity doesn't work that way.
I had a very similar lesson on my side as well, and that was my conclusion was forced art is terrible art, and it's, I don't want to call it ego, but in essence it is. When you have the ability to create, it's a very powerful thing. And when you could sit in front of a blank sheet of paper and all of a sudden there's something there when once there was nothing there, your mind kind of tells you, I could do this whenever I please. Whenever I sit down, I could be able to create that fire, right? And then, we are humbled when it doesn't necessarily happen like that, and when it does take time to go into your craft, and it seems like our art doesn't have clarity, until we do. You know what I mean? Do you have any, which I love the word humble. Do you have anything in your experiences that made you, now I'm not trying to paint you, Mr. Campbell, as some kind of egomaniac, but have you had an instance where you were humbled a bit in your craft that kind of brought you to this better place? I think humility makes the art better to me. You know what I mean? Where, do you have anything where you had to bring it down a notch?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like what you said, and humility is definitely the word to use. Art itself is a very humbling thing. There's some stories that I would like to write, right? But they're at a caliber that's just too high. It's just too lofty for me. And sometimes you just have to admit that, okay, you know, you're getting there, but you're just not there yet.
Right.
This story is good. It's a good idea, but you just don't have the skills yet to do it. And so there's some things that I tackle or some ideas, but I just can't word it correctly. But then that's where humility comes in.
Right.
And then with the humility, then you start to appreciate the art even more because you know that it's not easy to do it. I can't just sit down and write a romance story when I never wrote one before. I can't just sit down and write a Western story just like that. But then you start to appreciate the genre. You start to respect it a little bit more. And so humility kind of equals respect in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely been at times where I've taken on different projects, right? Or I may even put out an episode and you get the crickets, right?
Right.
But that's a good lesson. Humble pie is always good because it breaks you down, and then you start to think, why am I doing what I'm doing? Am I doing this just for popularity? Am I doing this just to be heard? It forces you to ask good questions, and those crickets, people watching this or other artists watching this, those are our messengers. Those are we shouldn't put them out of the room. We should invite them in the room.
Facts.
Right? They should be our teachers.
Facts. That's big facts. I used to rely on the fact that I could write a lot, and I used to really lean on that as sort of a crutch. And I know rather that I didn't become a better version of myself until I swallowed that giant freaking slice of humble pie. We're gonna take a beeline just for a second. I wanna the spirit is moving me to ask me, who are your peers? Who are the artists that you love? Who are the gals and guys that you're like, man, they are dope right there? Who do you like?
I have so many different kinds of influences
Okay.
from Nas to King David that wrote different portions of the Bible.
Okay.
To independent authors that I follow. I mean, my range is pretty out there from. So the person that wrote Atlas Shrugged,
Okay.
there's a lot of artists, even artists that are outside of my genre,
Okay.
that I respect and that I read their material, I read their book. So yeah, so from Nas to King David.
I like that, and there might be with some of the viewers on my end that may watch this, there may be a bit of naive notions that I want to piggyback to what you said a little earlier. Yes, there is a ton of hip hop in Canada. I used to once upon a time I used to date a young lady, and I would frequent Canada I would go back and forth to Toronto a lot, trying to make this long distance relationship work, and we would always go out when I came into town, and I was amazed because I'm originally from New York City. I was amazed at how clean Toronto was. And I was just like, oh boy, these Canadians have it figured out, because I'd never seen a clean subway in my life. And there was one in Toronto. Also, at the time I was going back and forth, Vince Carter was king. So Vince Carter was having these at clubs in Toronto. I forget the name of the particular club, but he would pass through, this particular club that I used to go to with her. And the hip hop was so rich and the culture was just so dope. I was just like, you know what? I might, because I was thinking about, was me and this girl going to get married? You know what I mean? And I was just like, I could live out here. I thought first when she was like, maybe you should come out here and live in Toronto. I was like, I don't know. But Toronto was just a clean New York. Guys didn't miss a step. The pizza could have been a little bit better, but So is Ottawa the same? Are you born and raised in Ottawa?
Ottawa is even cleaner than Toronto. I grew up in Toronto.
Okay.
I've been living in Ottawa for quite some time now.
Okay.
Originally, though, I'm from Jamaica. I was born in Jamaica. Grew up in
I
Toronto.
I heard a little bit of that. I was going to ask you. I hear it a little bit in your voice. That's fine.
Okay.
In New York, I was surrounded by a lot of Jamaicans, people from the West Indies, Guyana, and things of that nature. So that's what's up. Do you frequent Jamaica often? Do you go?
No, I don't. I talk about Jamaica here and there in my show, Poetic Earthlings.
Okay.
But no, I don't frequent it that much. Most of my family is here in Toronto and here in Ottawa as well.
That's what's up. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what for those people who don't know, and I'm going to leave a link to the episode that I was honored to be a part of on Poetic Earthlings.
You did such a good job on that.
I'm a big ham. I loved every minute of it, man. When we were working and you sent me the script, the first thing that popped out in my mind when you sent me the script is I was just like, wow, this guy can write. Why do I say that? It's not necessarily to try to beef you up for the sake of the show. I have found, because I'm an abstract thinker myself, anybody, in my view, who can take a amazingly abstract concept and make it make sense on paper, that's a gift, my brother. So salute to you for number one. Number two, just the gumption it took to know, you are left of center and you go for it anyway. I love that kind of, the name revolutionary comes to mind again, of any guy, any woman, any man who goes against the grain of convention and was like, you know what, we're telling our stories this way. And we're really not like a whole lot of other people out there. That's dope. Number two, Wu-Tang forever on that. You know what I mean? So I was excited. And I believe I got back to you fairly quickly. I'm going to link that. We talked a little bit about your creative process and those humble moments. Well, let's be for a minute, Mr. Campbell, not so humble. What are the crown jewels of your creative catalog? What are you like? What did you create that you were just like, this is my manifesto. This is my Picasso. This is my fifth chapel.
I think it has to be the podcast. It has to be Poetic Earthlings. Okay. When I wrote a book, I wrote a book called Universe Splendor. And when you have a book in your hand, it's a precious thing, right? It's a really incredible thing when you actually write a book. And I thought that was the top of my peak as an artist. But once I started getting really into podcasting and creating audio, and creating the seasons that I've created, one season after another, then I started to say, okay, well, this is it. This is what I really enjoy. This is what I really enjoy doing.
Wow.
And each season it's organic. It flows in such a way, and it's inspiring. It's uplifting for me, and I believe it's uplifting for other people that has heard it, and that the people that I've received feedback from, and the impact that it's made in their life. So yeah, so that's definitely my
I was
my
dope.
greatest achievement so far.
Yeah, my website is currently under construction, right? So I know it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I know it's a big deal to have a website and a podcast and all of that, and all that type of thing. So I wanted to salute you on that regard. I pretty much know the next answer before I even ask you. But out of all of the things that you can create, what is the most fun for you right now? Is it the Poetic Earthlings podcast?
Yeah, it is, because with Poetic Earthlings, it's not just a podcast. It's a universe in of itself. There's different ideas. There's different components.
Right.
That's inside of this world that I'm making. So it's an anthology, and the reason that I enjoy an anthology rather than a series is because I have a lot of ideas. If I were to do a long series, I think I'll be bored in the third or fourth episode.
Right.
So at least with this one, I could switch things. I could do a time traveling episode. I could do one about a life coach that's controlling somebody's life. Right. I could do different things. So yeah, it's this one that gives me the most excitement. I feel a lot of joy, and I think if you're creating something, listeners and viewers, if you're an artist, it has to give you a lot of joy to do it. You have to feel that it's not just an obligation for you to write or to draw or do whatever you're doing, but it's an extension of you, and it's even more than that. So yeah, so this gives me the most joy.
Indeed. I believe there is, I find the series to be very clever. One, because as a writer, I know there is a boredom component where we started off, we came out of the gates gun blazing. It was new, it was exciting, we were inspired. And it's not that we're not inspired to write, but it becomes kind of mundane depending on the size of the project. And when it starts to feel like work and you don't love it anymore, then it becomes a bigger of a burden than anything else. What I like about Poetic Earthlings is that every episode is such a flip of the last episode. The premise is the same, but everything else is different. You could be in a studio in one episode having an interview with somebody, and then flip, and next episode you might be on the planet Mars. You just don't know. No, and the setup. The setup is not even the same. And there's the familiarity, which is dope. But everything else flips on a dime. That is exciting for me because you can kind of open it up and you know what to expect as far as storytelling, cleverness, and great and quality and all that stuff. But it's exciting to open up the episode for me. And I really want to pay attention to it. Number two, another thing that I noticed about your brand is just the level of engagement you get. I said this on a previous episode of this very video blog, if you will. As an artist, to get people to watch, listen, hear is one thing. To get people to interact with you is a total different thing. Many people, and I'm sure you've experienced this, will watch you
for hours on end and never say ish. They will not comment. They will not like. They will not share. They will not subscribe. They love you, but they are not inspired to just interact. I call it the voyeur's stare. They just want to watch you from behind the glass, and they are content with that. So when you make somebody, when you inspire somebody to just be like, "Ooh, I gotta tell York Campbell that this was nice," or whatever. And when my phone is blowing up with all of these Twitter mentions, you know what I mean, on either the episode to come or the episode we did, I'm just like, freaking York is on fire right now. What the heck is going on? So I appreciate the look, just being over there. That brought kind of attention to what I was doing over here, which is dope. That's why you kind of cross the streams, a little bit. You know what I mean? We talked about what you like. Let's switch gears a little bit. And what don't you like? Not necessarily about you, but about this genre of art that the space we both occupy. We're in two different lanes. We're essentially the same, but we definitely have two different lanes. Is there something about writing, poetry, performance, recording, directing, editing that pisses you off?
Well, I think one of the hardest parts is promotions. And that's the hardest part for me. I enjoy the creative side. I enjoy editing. I enjoy working with artists. Okay. I enjoy the writing process, even though that could be grueling at times, the writing process. But the business part of it, right? The putting your name out there. Getting the word out as an artist, that's tough.
It's a part of it, isn't it? I want to pause for a half a second. I want to reset one of my cameras. I know it only does 30 minutes. We're at the 35th minute. Excuse me for 2 seconds.
All right.
I'm gonna leave this recording though.
We're back. Hopefully that wasn't too long. Just piggybacking off what you said, the business part is essential, and man, it almost makes you wish that you were at that Oprah level where you can just have guys just do the promoting for you. Be like, hey, Stan, hey, Robert, hey, Jim, hey, Gail. And, I got episode 27 coming out. Why don't y'all just tell the world while I go write episode 28? You know what I mean? It can certainly be tough. One of the things that I even struggle with to this day, one of my kind of naive notions of how things changed for guys like you and me over the years is just how social media has become such a huge part of a person's brand and their art. And my naive notion was that after the website is up and everybody knows that your art is available, that the work stops. I told you guys already to like, share, subscribe, and all of that stuff. Surely you did that already. And even with about 1,300 subscribers to my YouTube, maybe about 2,000 subscribers to my website in itself, it's still no guarantee for me that if I don't continue to let people know that an episode is out on Twitter or an episode is out on Facebook, LinkedIn, and all of these other places, YouTube, it doesn't guarantee that people will tune in. Do you have any things about social media and how it is that you were a little bit naive to?
Well, yeah, I do. I have a lot to share with that.
Okay.
Like this is a lot of trial and error. I know this from podcasters, and I used to do this, a lot of podcasters, when they have a new episode out on Twitter, they just say, "Hey, by the way, new episode out." That doesn't do anything at all. And I used to do that. So rather than just say, "By the way, new episode," I try my best to make it into an event. If it's about, say, for instance, boy band conspiracy, that's one of the episodes that I did. I say, what's your favorite boy band from the 1980s or 1990s? So you're throwing out questions.
Right.
You're getting a conversation brewing a little bit. With the episode that I did with you, about the Pegasus, about the black.
Yeah, right.
Pegasus.
I thoroughly enjoyed that whole concept. Yes.
Yeah, so I got a little conversation brewing online before the episode even hit. I said, "Hey, I just discovered a Pegasus," and then somebody else was talking about it, and another person was talking about a black Pegasus or a Pegasus, and then this person, one of my friends, she did an artwork with a black Pegasus. This is before it was launched.
Right,
and
that was
right. Hashtag, yeah, and I put hashtag. I think I put hashtag Black Pegasus.
Yes,
So-
that's when I started seeing it. Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's important rather than just saying out now new episode. People are that it doesn't attract anyone to do that, and I've learned that the hard way because that's what I did because that's what everyone does. But the other way attracts more people when you have a dialogue, when you have a discussion, when it's even a little bit controversial, right? And to say, "Hey, what do you think of the atom bomb?" Because there's an episode that I have coming out tomorrow at the time of this recording. It's about the atom bomb.
Wow.
So even if it gets a little controversial, at least people are talking about it. Also, what I learned is that not everyone is going to click on your show. Obviously not. Not everyone will. But what you could do is you could take the content of your show and you could repackage it. I use Twitter, you could use Instagram or Facebook, but you could repackage the content and people could gain something out of that content even without going on your show. This is
Right.
just an extension.
Right.
And I learned the hard way as well that with the show, it doesn't just live on the show itself, because that's really just a really narrow-minded. Your show is other things. Your show is a blog post. Your show is a tweet. Your show is an Instagram or is a TikTok or whatever it is. That's also your show. It doesn't just live in one spot. And then you could repurpose it. And your show on Twitter, and I do Twitter episodes as well, just for Twitter. I've done plenty of those. You will not hear that on the podcast.
Right.
That's just for Twitter. Those are micro episodes just for Twitter, just for the Twitter audience. And so in that way, it's exclusive just for them. And so they feel that they're getting everything. But then at the end of those ones, I say, "Hey, you can hear even more on my podcast."
Okay.
But they're still getting a meal. I'm still attending to that audience. But rather than doing everything that everyone else does, this is something else.
Right.
That I feel that works.
Yeah. The movie, the movie is rarely. The movie's only as good as the trailer for most people. So if the trailer itself is not necessarily appealing, and it started making sense to me too, just how people digest just consumerism itself, the nature of consumerism. You stand next to Oprah, and every episode you've ever done is out of there. But without the corporate cosign. People and many choices online. When you open up your tablet, your phone, your computer, whatever device you have, there are a million choices on who to click, what to listen to, who to introduce into your home, into your periphery, right? So it makes sense after the fact to me after the naive thing was gone, that of course I would have to be just as creative as letting these people know that this art is available than I was in creating it itself. It almost seems like you have to be more clever telling people about it than it was initially coming up with the creation itself. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point, and that's what I learned the hard way much later on, is that telling people about it, you also have to be creative because we are creators,
Right.
right? That's our mission. That's our job. We create things. So why should we just put a template on Twitter or wherever it is and just say new episode out? No. Get into the creative space.
Indeed.
You created something and figure out a creative way to communicate that message.
Fact.
All right. Figure out it. Yeah. And if we do that, then people will click on, or they'll read our post on social media and they'll gain something from that.
Okay. I have a two-part question for you coming up. First of all, for those who may have started this video in the middle somehow, we're live, not really live because this is recorded, from San Francisco, California to York Campbell's side, Ottawa, Canada. We're talking to poet, director, producer, editor, York Campbell today, having a very great conversation. Thank you for your time again. I wanted to ask you a two-part question, and that two-part question is, where do you see the art going in your chosen modality? And at the end of the day, where would you like to see it go? Like if you had your choice, you would like to see it go here. And that is going to lead me to a legacy question, which I will save for the last thing. But where do you see the art going, and where would you like it to go?
The art I see right currently is becoming a lot more professional and more corporate as well.
Okay.
There's a lot of fictional audio drama producers and writers, and they're getting Netflix deals. They're getting those type of deals.
Right.
And so that's where the art is going. There's a famous podcast that got a deal to a streaming service.
Right.
And so a lot of industries, they're taking notice. Netflix is taking notice. Disney is taking notice to these storytellers. And they said, oh, wow, okay, we could probably work with her or work with him.
Right.
It's becoming a little bit more professional in that way. It's becoming more corporate.
Yeah.
So and I think it's just going to continue to go that way. There's even some television production teams where they will, rather than spending tons of money to create a trailer, not a trailer, to create a pilot episode, they put out a podcast, an audio drama podcast, because it's way less money. So they'll put 10 episodes together, and they'll just see how it works. And if it picks up steam, people like it, then they can say, okay, then now we're going to bring in the thousands or millions of dollars to produce this.
Right.
So it's like it's a trial balloon.
Yeah.
And so now the regular independent podcasters, such as myself, we have to, in a way, level up and to say that we don't have to necessarily go corporate or mainstream, but we have to try at least to sound as creative as Disney, as Amazon.
Right. No, I totally agree with the first part of that question on my end too. I have had conversations, you probably have had many conversations with people interested in your art, wanting to invest or have you a part of their streaming this or whatever, and those type of things. What I also notice, and I'll let you finish, what I also notice is some very well produced, safe art. where the opening graphic is amazing, the trailer is freaking incredible, but when the episode starts, with all due respect, I'm not hating at all, but the subject matter did not necessarily, or the exploration of that subject matter was nothing that grabbed me. And I'm like, man, this is so dope. It seems like somebody invested a lot of time in the image of this art, but not necessarily, no one was in that dark room creating this art from here, you know? So at the end of the day, if you had your choice though, Mr. York Campbell, and you ruled the world and you was the super supreme being of podcast, where would you like the art to go? Where would you like to see it go?
Where would I like to see my art go?
Just podcasting and what you do. Yeah, maybe you can let's put it as far as your art. Where would you like, what is your legacy at the end of the day when you're gone, when you're dust and you are but a memory? What would you like your legacy to be?
Well, in terms of the arts, I would like for people to look back at what I've done and to learn how we could love each other better. All right. The whole idea, the whole premise of this was for people to not to judge each other by the color of our skin, by the content of our character. And I like people to also see all the threads that I've laid down in the episodes, the spiritual threads. Yeah. That I've laid down, and to dig even deeper. That's what I would like my legacy to be, so that they could use this as like a starting pistol of their life, and so that they could run and they could soar even higher because of the work that I've done.
That's pretty dope. And it's interesting that you say that, because one of the things that was very striking when I got the script for the Pegasus episode we did was that there was a lot of morality in between the margins, in between the verses. Yeah. You know what I mean? And my particular character was really caught up on Black Pegasus not receiving its just due, or my character had a lot of naive notions as to why Black Pegasus was going through the plight that Black Pegasus was going through, which was absolutely hilarious, actually, by the way. So I want to say that very similarly, at the end of the day, York, I'm really trying to just elevate the whole thing. Yes, I am in my own self-interest. Yes, I want the art to pay for itself. Yes, I would love for the art to bankroll a couple of houses in the Fiji Islands. Sure. I'm not going to pretend like that isn't in the agenda as well. However, at the end of the day, when I am dust and bones and all of that good stuff, I would like my legacy to be that I was one of the guys that helped usher in a new era of some type of unity. We don't got to be best friends, right, but we all kind of know that it's actually bigger than what we're doing individually. There is something bigger. Every time I receive a retweet notification on the episode that we did, or I get a notification on the episode you're about to do, I love to retweet it because it's like, it's bigger than me. You know what I mean? This guy is in a lane of his own. His art represents what I'm doing on many levels. Why not lift a brother up in my area, you know? People that I've worked with years ago. I've collaborated with so many people at this point, as I'm sure you have. it might even make you dizzy. Sometimes when I go through the Rolodex and I look at maybe something I created once upon a time, I'm like, man, I forgot I even did that. You know what I mean? So it is crazy. What are your biggest challenges right now? Where, you know, in real time, I know we're talking about legacy and all of that stuff. Do you have what is your biggest challenge in 2022? We're kind of seems like we're coming out of the pandemic a little bit. You know what I mean? What gets your goat nowadays?
Well, I think the biggest challenge right now, creatively, because of the projects that I'm doing and there's more details. There's more details now in the coming season 5, that wasn't there before in the other seasons. Now there's going to be more voices.
Okay.
That's a challenge, because when you're just producing by yourself, it's fine because you're on your own schedule.
Right.
But when you're relying on people overseas and different time zones, that could be a challenge. Also, on top of that, there's just going to be more challenges as well, because the episodes there's more things involved in it. There's more ideas. It's a little bit longer. All right.
Right.
The structure is not going to be the same as season 4. It's going to be the same idea, but there's just more moving parts. That's creatively, that's a challenge.
Indeed. Do you ever find yourself? I don't want to use the word victim, because I think that's a bad word. I try to use my word choice carefully, because words can be very powerful. Are you ever, well, that's the only word I could think of. Do you find yourself a victim of your own ambitions? Is the idea like this big, and then when it comes to executing the idea, you're just like, damn, I think I bit off a lot. It's not that I can't do it, but it's going to take me maybe more time than I thought.
Not really. I never really thought of that. Sometimes I set myself up, and it's really big, but I get excited.
Okay.
1-800 Life Coach. That was one of the episodes. I was working with this young lady from London, England.
Okay.
And so it was hard the time zones, and she has to record her part over there. It's a huge time difference for me here in Canada. And the way that it was produced as well, it looked like almost impossible to do.
Right.
But I attacked it in such a way that I broke it down, and I thought, okay, how can I do it? I really want her to be on the episode, because I like her voice. I like the British voice. I like where we're going with it.
Right.
How are we going to execute it? But no, these certain things just gets me excited. And when I finish one project, if another project is on the same level as difficulty, sometimes I make it even harder for myself, because I just like the challenge.
Right. No, I'm the exact same way. Go ahead.
This story, yeah.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. That's why I was kind of ginger with using the word victim, because I have some of these grand ideas, and sometimes after I sit down, I get frustrated at myself that I'm just like, man, the idea is dope, but it's going to take me a little bit more time to execute than I thought I was going to. So I don't necessarily look at it as if I am the victim, or I don't want to play the victim. Like you said, York, breaking it down into bite-sized pieces and say, okay, let me do this first, and kind of prioritize what's really important. In the example you gave, you like the lady from London's voice, so it's very important to grab that audio and get her involved, right? And then everything else follows from there. So I became a bit more effective in my genre here is when it didn't matter the scope of the idea. You know what I mean? It just mattered. What mattered more was taking the time to really sit down and and really write whatever or try to execute. How many hours a day do you believe you dedicate to your craft?
Well, I used to do it every day, and that got me in trouble because it's just way too demanding.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, my wife could attest to that. Even on Sundays, I would put out an episode.
Mm.
So then I scaled back. I reshuffled a whole bunch of things, and now I'm also editing a totally different show, an educational podcast from an incredible writer, Tiffany C. Lewis.
Okay.
Tiffany, yeah. So she's an amazing uh, crime crime fiction author, uh, incredible. So I'm doing her show. So I think roughly, if I were to do a season, I do seasons ahead of time. Season 4, I wrote the season, did all of the show notes, did all of the recordings, did everyone else's voices, all 10 or 11 episodes. They were already done, already done.
Right.
So that way gives me a lot more time to promote the show. So now I'm not worried about recording new episodes.
Right.
But I think if it's on average one episode of Poetic Earthlings, it may take me about 2 days,
Okay.
roughly, for one episode.
Okay.
And yeah,
I write about I would say on my end, I write maybe at least maybe an hour a day. You know what I mean? As far as writing, there's other things that goes on. There's recording, there's rehearsing, performance. I really have an itch after COVID to get back on the stage and do some performance poetry. I have a showcase coming up in New York in about 3 months that I kind of got to get ready for, and I got to be sharp because New York is savvy. You know what I mean? You can't come in there playing at all, so, but a challenge accepted, I'm coming to do that. Much like your creative process, I try to stay about 3 or 4 episodes ahead. I already have the notes for follow-up episodes of The Adventures of a Naive Poet, of what I'm actually going to talk about, potential guests. I've already been kind of talking to, no different than me, messaging you like, hey, what are we doing? What day that you're making the planets line up? I'm doing the same thing with other artists. It's not primarily an interview show, but I like other people's opinion other than mine on the show. I do another podcast called Let's Think This Through, and I've got like 3 episodes of that written down. I'll probably record tonight for that. So as in writing, I probably do maybe an hour to an hour and a half a day. And this is and that could be just note taking. I don't want to try to pretend like I'm, captain of the discipline team, you know what I mean? I like my days off like everybody else. But that's what I do. I thoroughly enjoyed this dialogue. I think this is a great part of this podcast to start landing the plane a little bit. Before we get out of here, is there anything that you care to share to any potential viewers of this that you want, any notes you want to leave off on? And please let everyone know how they can get in contact with you, how they, all of your social media information. I'll plaster it all over the screen anyway, but just let the people know.
Well, first of all, you are definitely a hard-working artist.
Okay.
You are hardworking. I mean, I look at the things that you do and the events that you perform at. I follow you as well on Instagram, and you pour everything into your art, and that's just for me, that's just amazing. I mean, you're an MC, you're a poet, you do romance books as well. I don't know how you do it all, but you embody the art. You definitely embody it. And I could tell that you're not just doing it just for the fame and the glory and the potential riches. That's not what you're doing it for. You're true to your word, and you are a true artist. And everyone needs to be like you, a true artist.
Mr. Campbell, I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, it's always great to get your flowers while you're still alive to smell them. I appreciate that, brother. You can, I'm putting all of his information on here. I follow him on Twitter, amazingly entertaining and just a down to earth dude. I sense no pretentiousness in you, bro. I rock with you heavy. You know what I mean? Please tell people how to get that book again. Where's your book at?
My book is called Universe Splendor.
Okay.
It's not available. It's an old fashioned hard copy book.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
This is before social media.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So the only way to get this book is a hard copy book.
Okay.
But listen to my show, Poetic Earthlings, or go on my website, poeticearthlings.com. There will be eventually details about the book, the actual physical book. But you could always get a hold of me on Twitter, as you're so kind to put it there on the screen. And then the show, poeticearthlings.com, that's the main website. We're in season 4 and currently writing season 5.
Indeed. And that's a wrap for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Sidebar, I listen to Poetic Earthlings typically on my drive home from downtown San Francisco. You know, it's a little late and it's cool. And don't get me wrong, I love my hip hop. I listen to a lot of gangster stuff. But when I'm taking a break, I tune in to poeticearthlings.com and just random. You can click on any episode, and it's not one of those bad boys that you have to listen to episode 3 to appreciate episode 4 or anything like that. You can just kind of jump in like the girls did back in the days on the double dutch on the rope and just have yourself a good time, man. York Campbell, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time, bro. You know, I know you're pretty much as busy as I am. You know what I mean? So I'm glad we was able to find, an hour and change on a Sunday and get it in. You know what I mean? I actually am coming back from LA and I flew early because I'm like, I can't miss this freaking interview with my man York. And then I got in about 6 a.m. and then I took a nap while the cameras were charging up so that I could do this, man. Any parting words before we sign off, bro?
No, man, you've been amazing. Thank you, audience as well, watching this show, and just follow Graffiti Blue's lead. I mean, Graffiti Bleu is the man. Follow this show, subscribe, follow, do whatever you can, and let's make really great art, and not just art for the sake of other people, but also for us as well. Let's pour everything that we have into it, just like Graffiti does, just like I do, just like Tiffany Christina Lewis does. Just like Brent Stark does, a brother that I've worked with on his show.
Okay.
He's also an incredible artist. Let's pour everything that we can, give it all, and also don't chase after the dollars. Don't chase after the corporate industry. Don't chase after certain celebrities because you think that you could just hang on their coattail. Don't do that. Create your own system, right? And just work at it with all of your heart.
Facts. What I'm going to do is at the tail end of this very podcast you just inspired me to do, I'm going to place the audio of our collaboration on what it means to be Black. I need anyone who watched this podcast to watch what happens when two artists collaborate together. I actually wrote what it means to be Black for a family function. And it went like so well. Everybody was just like, oh, let me get copies of the poem. I'm working on a project with a good buddy of mine in New York, and she wanted it for her hip hop album. She's doing a hip hop album, and she's like, "Oh, I need what it means to be Black on my album." And I was like, "Okay, you got it." So then I recorded the demo here. I sent you the demo. You hit me right back and was just like, "I like it. The audio could be, the vocal could be this. Send me the vocal." I sent you the vocal. You sent it back.
Yeah.
And you put your production on there. And I love your interpretation so much. Ending this, I will have that audio at the end of this. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, enjoy. York, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Peace be on to all of my creatives out there. This is what manifestation looks like, co-creation. This is what it looks like when a brother from Jamaica and a brother from Queens get together. This is what we can do when we actually combine and level up, so to speak. Bro, I'm gonna stop the recording here. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. See you next time. What it means to be Black. It means being the mother and father of teenagers named humanity who don't acknowledge their parents. It means walking through fires with bare feet, thinking the pain felt by that journey is a bad thing, until you see the results like rock and roll, funk, jazz, blues, hip-hop culture, Nina Simone's voice, Sammy Davis Jr.'s rhythms, and Huey P. Newton's audacity. It is believing you are less than until realizing you are greater than. Like a mathematics symbol turned the opposite way. It means saying ashe to the kings and queens in front of you who came from the kings and queens before you, as well as the kings and queens we collectively raised. Vicky Village. It means knowing that unity is the answer and being scared to ask the question, why is it so hard for us to fucking come together? It means having empathy for your enemies and wondering if your people will abuse their power the same way as Whitey after finally uniting as one. It means paying respect to the slaves who were too scared to run, as well as the ones who got away. It means knowing your complexion is a reflection of your selection.
Say that again.
Complexion is a reflection of your selection.
Thank you.
Used mostly because in the event the slave got away, it would be harder for their brown skin to blend in. It means accepting the truth that you have to be more valuable than they say you are, since they copy us like some little boys copy the behaviors of their older brothers. It means finding a way to win in a game where the rules change with every forward step you take. It means constantly turning ugliness into beauty, misfortune into fashion, struggles into a soldier's story, food stamps into a Thanksgiving, a funeral into a family reunion, a Zoom meeting into a Sunday service, and a tire shop into a gambling spot. It means seeing Mother Earth inside your skin tone, chocolate in your reflection, and God in your eyes. It means breastfeeding the children of the people that hate you and praying more for them than they do for you. It means talking the talk and walking the walk, talking the talk, regardless of the crabs on the edge of the bucket. It means accepting and acting okay when it's really not okay, and constantly telling yourself it'll be okay. hoping to God it will be someday, and hoping we can handle the glory when it comes our way. And sharply into focus, being Black is knowing you are great, no matter who accepts that. What it means to be Black.
Black is beautiful.
Black is cultural. Black is loud.
Black is knowledge. Black is
Graffiti.
Blue.